from our studios in the historic Brooks Mansion, located in Northeast Washington, D.C. This is Student Exposure. Welcome to Student Exposure, Development in D.C. Thanks so much again for joining us. In our first segment, we'll explore a limited equity co-op through the eyes of its founder, community activist Linda Leaks. We'll see how a co-op functions and learn how low-income D.C. residents can avoid some of the pitfalls created by developers that are raising the cost of housing.
My name is Linda Leaks, and I was the, let's say, instigator. I was the first person to start organizing to create the Ella Jo Baker Intentional Community. I started organizing and trying to find people to create an intentional community, that was sort of like what was happening in the 90s. There were people all over the place creating, especially in Silver Spring and Tacoma Park, creating intentional communities. The Ella Jo Baker Intentional Cooperative, Community Cooperative was started when there was a huge effort of people are in this area, actually, Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, creating intentional communities and cooperatives. And I was excited about the idea because I had always been excited about cooperatives and intentional community. So I was inspired to move forward, to talk with folks and try to pull people in to be a part of this intentional community. And it took me, I would say, about 8 to 9 years to really pull together a force of people who were as committed or as interested in creating a intentional community. The intentional part is for community activists, social justice activists, people who are out there doing a lot of work to make sure that we have a just society, but did not have a whole lot of money to pay the big cost for housing. And that was the idea and the concept behind creating the Ella Jo Baker Intentional Community Cooperative. The intent initially was to create a community for people who were involved in social justice activity, people who are struggling in the community to make life better for everybody. Oftentimes, when there are folks who are organizers, community justice organizers, which I have been all of my life, for most of my life, I've been out there. And I know that it is hard to fight for justice and have a job that will pay enough money to pay for the housing or to pay your other kind of expense. So for me, the intention of the cooperative was to create a space for social justice organizers or activists. That's what the intentional part of the intentional community is all about. In a cooperative, Everybody who lives in the cooperative is a member, and they have a right to make decisions about how the cooperative is taken care of. In a condominium, a person will purchase a unit outright. Cooperative, for the most part, developers do not make a whole lot of money. That's why when you have a cooperative develop, usually developers who develop cooperatives, they have social justice in their motivation. There are different types of housing cooperative. There are what is called market rate cooperatives. There's what's called limited equity cooperatives. And the difference between market rate and limited equity is the amount of money that is paid into becoming a member of the cooperative. Cooperatives, I think, on all levels are a quality idea. It's a great idea because it involves people coming together, working together for a cause to benefit everybody.
And now here in studio with me today is student producer Lee Mosley. Lee, welcome to Student Exposure. Thanks so much for being with us. We were talking just a little bit, and I was telling Lee while we were watching the video that I want to be like Lee when I grow up because she is fantastic. So Lee, tell me, why do you think it was important, or why did Linda Leaks want to spearhead the Ella Jo Baker Intentional Community Cooperative?
Well, first of all, it's because of who it was named after. Ella Jo Baker was a very serious civil rights leader that doesn't get the credit and didn't want the credit for a lot of the work that she did during the civil rights movement. She started out working with the NAACP that she spent an entire lifetime working with. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee with Stokely Carmichael and Bernice Johnson Reagan and others, people who were very active in the civil rights movement. And she wanted, Ella Jo Baker was the kind of person who thought that the basis for the movement should come from the ground up, not from the top down. Mm-hmm. And that is basically what Linda Leaks has tried to do during her lifetime of commitment. She has formed like 15 different cooperatives in this city, and she's been a very ardent and hard-working community organizer and social justice activist.
So this is definitely a project that's kind of close to your heart because you are a member of this cooperative, correct?
Yes, I am.
And tell me, what were your reasons for wanting to join this particular cooperative?
I like the ideas on which it was based. First of all, it's based on the 7 Kwanzaa principles that have to do with cooperative living, and in terms of economics and just the whole way of thinking and moving about in the world, where you're taking interest in your neighbor and what happens to other people where you live and outside of your own narrow community as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so again, what was the intended mission of the cooperative? Like, are there new goals that they're working on, or are they still kind of focused on the same principles that they were founded on?
We're still working on the same basic principles because that's a never-ending job. However, we do have other projects that we work on, and I think that our mission has been accomplished, basically to create an environment where people who are working every day very hard to improve the quality and the quality of the life of people that live in our immediate community as well as outside of that, and have an affordable way to live. Because if you work for a lot of community organizations, the pay is usually very low, and you do a lot of hard work. And we have people who are parents; they have to raise children,
right.
And the funds they have to pay for where they live is relatively low, particularly since we are located in Adams Morgan, and we need to continue to do the work and have a place to live as well.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Lee. Thank you so much for your wonderful project. You and your comrades in your group did a fantastic job, and thanks for the information as well. The Ella Jo Baker Cooperative is a model and a valuable institution for alternative, affordable housing for low to moderate income social activists in the District of Columbia. For more information, visit the Ella Jo Baker Intentional Community Cooperative on Facebook.